Gareth, before we get into that piece of Frank Warren audio that you and Spencer spoke to, I just want to quickly talk about these pay-per-view numbers. Look, I don't know what to believe when I see it on the internet most days, but reports are that the pay-per-view buys in the US was 67,000, which again, this fight for me was trending all over the place, all over the world. I mean, LeBron James was talking about it in America, the biggest sports star probably the world's ever seen in terms of sort of history. So when I see a number of 67,000, immediately my conspiracy theorist hat just goes on because that doesn't make sense to me. TNT are reporting 400,000 buys in the UK. I think DAZN is talking about a 200,000 number worldwide, and ESPN America
Yeah, it is an
67,000
anomaly.
just doesn't add up
It's a
to me.
very, very odd figure. You just think, oh, I don't want to get into illegal streaming or anything like that particularly, but if it had been say 250 or 200, I'd have gone, yeah, okay. It's a little low, but 67,000 on a split of two different sources, isn't it? I just don't buy it. I just don't buy it because, as you say, there was a resonance around it that doesn't suggest that number. It just doesn't add up. You wonder if there's been a mistake with it. As I say, like you said, your conspiracy theory hat goes on. There's lots of things you can think about it, but it just doesn't make sense, frankly. You look at we're still talking about it 10 days on. It had a giant resonance at the time. The Legends event had happened the night before that had made it projected it even more. I don't get it. I just don't get it. It just does not make sense.
Yeah, I somehow think those numbers are wrong, and I expect someone to, in a couple of weeks' time, announce that was an incorrect figure, and it's more, you said, around the 200,000 to 300,000 number. I think because just the people that were there that were tweeting about it, Cristiano Ronaldo, Conor McGregor, their tweets alone and post alone would push the event. So yeah, for me, I think that's a wrong number. Let's talk about your piece with Frank Warren. Obviously, kind enough to come and speak to you and Spencer Oliver, not just about the event, but what next now for Tyson Fury. We know it's not going to be December 23rd, as I thought was a bit of a push anyway. So it's early next year, January, February, March.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe. What were you thinking?
Probably February. I think is the noise on the street, if you like. But it's got to happen. Frankly, that's the point. It's got to happen. Again, you read on the internet, Fury's retiring, this, that, and the other, and no, it's got to happen. He's got to have this fight. If he doesn't have any other fights other than this, well, that's fine. But he needs to have this fight because we need resolution on the era. As I asked Frank, was the fight damaging for Tyson's reputation? As he said, not really. He had a very bad night. And as Spencer made that point, and I spoke to Shakur Stevenson about this last night as well. I was on a call with Shakur. Obviously, he's fighting Edwin De Los Santos in the week after next. That when you fight someone and you don't have that adrenaline, that fear, if you like, that fear factor, something in your body doesn't respond properly. And Shakur said, I get that. Shakur said, I get that when I go to sparring sometimes. If I know it's someone who really can't push me, I go there, my performance isn't great. But if you know it's someone who's actually coming to take your head off in that sparring session, it really sharpens you up. There's adrenaline on your way there. There's adrenaline. And I think Fury didn't have that. He didn't have that sharpener. Yeah. And maybe this will have kind of put the cat amongst the pigeons in terms of getting him ready for Usyk. Because myself, like most other people, now have the fight between Fury, based on that performance with Usyk, a hell of a lot closer when they step into the ring together. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, no, I have it close, but I also... Yeah. I don't want to judge Fury on that performance, as I'm not going to judge Usyk on his performance against Daniel Dubois. I think when both step up against the best, we're going to see the best come out of them. And I expect Fury to be razor sharp against Alexander Usyk. I think we're hearing that he's got Jai Opetaia there for sparring, who, again, southpaw cruiserweight like Usyk likes to move. So I feel like Fury is going to be at his best, and I'm not going to judge Fury on one performance as some have. And I think some of the noise I've been hearing about Fury in the aftermath has been ridiculous. Oh, he's not as good as we thought he was. He fought 3 times against Wilder. He's not this, he's not that. I'm like, what's wrong with people? Like, as much as I thought Fury didn't look great against Ngannou, I'm not going to then judge him for the Klitschko win and the 3 fights against Deontay Wilder. Still, for me, the best heavyweight of this era, the best heavyweight of this generation. And I think
well, I think so, but we may be proved wrong. There may be, again, look at the arc of Usyk's life and what's in the background to him with the Ukraine scenario and what's happened to him in his life latterly. Make the parallels with Francis Ngannou and his incredible narrative arc, fleeing from Africa to make his fortune. A guy with a special journey. I spoke to Michael Buffer about this, by the way, a very old friend and a great man in the sport, of course, the voice of boxing, and peerless, frankly. That he was saying, when Usyk and Fury do fight, I love both guys so much. It's so painful because someone I love's got to win, someone I love's got to lose, and it's a really difficult one on that personal level, because Usyk again has got an incredible story. He's incredibly inspiring. Many fans in the UK as well. So when it comes down to it, this is going to be a mega event, and it won't be 67,000 pay-per-view buys in America for that one. I can guarantee you that.
When we say generation, sort of best fighter of this generation, what are we saying? Are we saying decade? Are we saying last 20 years? Because the reason I asked that question, Gareth, is because if Usyk does become undisputed at heavyweight after being undisputed at cruiserweight, I mean, there's a discussion about where he fits in the pantheon of great fighters anyway. But surely that's it. Fighter of the generation is locked in. It's Alexander Usyk without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, maybe they have to have 2 fights, by the way, I think. Evander Holyfield, look what he did. I mean, he is a similar case, isn't he, to Alexander Usyk. Different time, different heavyweights, the beginning of the super heavyweights, and he's not a giant man, he'd come up from cruiser. So there are similarities and parallels there, that he stands in the same shoulder to shoulder with Evander Holyfield. And if we're looking at where Fury stands generationally, I think you look back at Lennox Lewis, and I think I spoke to Lennox out in Saudi, and Lennox's view was Tyson should jump all over Usyk, literally jump all over him, because he said that's what I would have done. I'd have rushed him. I'd have found my moment. I'd have rushed Usyk as much as possible. You could see Lennox doing that, and what he's saying is Fury is too big for Usyk. He should be too big for him. Like people will make the case that would Mike Tyson have got to Tyson Fury, but people will also make the case too big for him. Mike Tyson was extraordinarily complimentary about Tyson Fury when we were out there in Saudi, saying he really was one of the greatest heavyweights ever. But that's Mike now. What would Mike have been like with all those vibes coming off him at the age of 21, 22? He'd have been saying, no, I'm going to chop you in half. I'm going to chop you down like a big tree. I'm going to start from your belly upwards. I'm going to chop you down. No, that's what he would have been like. And he would have been and people have been wanting to see it. And some people would have backed him to do it. Some people still back him to do it, and bring that punch up.
Yeah, I'm one of those.
Fury's body, and bring those uppercuts up. I'm getting excited just thinking about it.
Yeah, for those listening and not watching the podcast, Gareth A. Davis has basically just reenacted Mike Tyson's favorite uppercut there, which basically goes through your nostril, not even your chin, literally destroys your whole face there. And that would have been some fantastic. Those are always the barbershop conversations: Mike Tyson versus Tyson Fury, Lennox Lewis versus Tyson Fury. I will say this though: if Alexander Usyk does beat Tyson Fury, and we're hoping it is in February, considering he is one of the smallest heavyweights of this era, to be the king of the land of the giants, in an era of giants, I mean, we are talking about, I think, one of the greatest fighters in the history of the sport, because I think it would be an incredible feat. Let's hope let's hope it happens in February. Gut feeling, February, March,
No,
finally?
February, and then another one, probably, I would say later in the year. I think they'll be taken up, both of them, with those two fights next year.